Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Polkadot live stream. I'm super excited to have with us today from Velocity Labs, Nico and Johnny. And we're discussing something really interesting and I think very much needed in the Polkadot ecosystem. And that is a way to fast track builders of DeFi applications into Polkadot. So we're talking about the DeFi Builders Program. And you guys are going to be offering a basically mentorship, funding, liquidity, successful launch strategies. You'll even help with hiring and marketing for people that want to get involved with DeFi in Polkadot. So I think we could just start with asking you, Nico, why this now? And it kind of revolves around Polkadot Hub. So maybe you could just kind of touch on what Polkadot Hub is and how all of this plays into that.
Absolutely. Well, first, Evan, thank you for hosting us. It's great always being here. But yeah, let's start with Hub, which is basically the catalyst of the DeFi Builders program. So for the people that aren't really up to date with Polkadot stuff, so Hub is one of the biggest upgrades to Polkadot to date, and it consists of two main components that we're working on. The first one is the unification of a lot of the system functionalities in Polkadot. Before, we kind of were fans of splitting everything on different shards. So we have staking on one, people's chain on the other, assets, bridges on another one. And so we're agglomerating everything on one chain, which we're going to call Polkadot Hub. So that includes the DOT token, staking, governance, and bridges. So that's a big thing, mostly for UX and DevX. But then the second big thing is that we're making this chain, well, first, we're going to enable it for permissionless smart contracts deployment, nice. And we're making it EVM compatible. So this is one of the first time that developers are going to be able to deploy smart contracts, Solidity smart contracts directly on Polkadot. Before, we kind of outsourced that functionality over to some of the parachains, and now we're enabling to do it on Polkadot. And it also enables developers to get the full support of the Polkadot ecosystem through grants, through Treasury, and through all these companies that have emerged in the past years that support the ecosystem.
That's amazing. And that's been, the fragmentation across various chains has been sort of a pain point for a lot of people that are new to Polkadot. So by consolidating everything into one place, hopefully the usability of the network is a lot easier. And just in terms of dates, I mean, this is kind of active already on Polkadot's Canary network, Kusama. Any idea about the date? I've been hearing Q4 this year. Is that still sort of the date for Polkadot Hub?
Yes, absolutely. And for developers that are following, they can update themselves on the forum. We're keeping everyone up to date there. But the dates that we're working with right now is to have this on testnet, the EVM on testnet for September. So it's coming up pretty close. And the idea is to have it launch on Polkadot by the end of the year, so September. We'll probably make of a more of a public launch more towards January, given that December is kind of a dead month.
Yeah, not good to launch something just before the holidays, right?
Yeah,
in case
not a
something
good
breaks.
idea.
Yeah. And okay, so you guys are from Velocity Labs. Maybe you could just give us a little bit of background on what your sort of mission is in the Polkadot ecosystem. I mean, you guys do a ton of behind the scenes work. I don't think you get enough recognition or credit for all the hard work you guys are doing for integrations for example, stable coins with centralized exchanges. But just tell us, like, why was Velocity Labs founded, and what is your main mission?
Absolutely. So yeah, I'll start by the genesis idea. So basically, before founding Velocity, I was head of DeFi at Parity Technology. So Parity is the main engineering company behind the Polkadot protocol. So there we were doing or attempting to do DeFi BD and infrastructure BD, but it was a bit hard doing it within the bigger company. So then came the decentralization initiative for Parity, sorry. And that was the perfect opportunity to kind of continue contributing to the ecosystem, but from a standalone company. So we did see this gap of basically having an entity that sits between builders and Parity and the foundation as the two main entities in the ecosystem, and just being more nimble and focused on a specific segment, right? So that's why we picked DeFi and infrastructure. We understood that that was one of the main gaps that the ecosystem had. And since then, we've been able to execute much more efficiently. with those two goals in mind. So as you mentioned, one of our main focuses have been to fill what we call the infrastructure gap, which is a product of our complex architecture being non-EVM compatible that has kind of been a big gap for builders to actually build successful products on Polkadot. So having oracles, having bridges, having a lot of centralized exchange integrations, having easy ways for users to be able to on-ramp and on-ramp their stablecoins directly into Polkadot. And we think that all these initiatives that, as you mentioned, they're a little bit in the background, they basically turn Polkadot into the best platform to build Web3 applications, right? So that's what we've been doing. And now that we've done a lot of work on the infrastructure piece for the past year, which is where we felt the biggest gap was, we're starting to move over more into the application layer,
Awesome.
which, I mean, Gavin has been vocal about it, but we do think that Polkadot as an ecosystem needs to build like more use cases, more applications. And the program that we're launching today is basically our initiative to do that.
Awesome. And thank you guys so much for your hard work, because it is really critical. And I think the infrastructure is a foundation that needs to be set, to allow liquidity to come into the ecosystem, for example, to eventually use these apps. So it's kind of like the good first starting point. And now sounds like we're sort of evolving into the second phase. So I want to talk about the Builders program, but first I want to come over to you, Johnny, and just maybe you could just tell us a bit about yourself and your role, and introduce yourself to the folks here.
Nice. Yeah. Thanks for having us today. So I'm BD lead for Velocity Labs, and really supporting on all things that we obviously do from an integration point of view, with regards to the infrastructure needed for the upcoming launch of Hub, the EVM chain, and then obviously there's that overlap coming towards kind of the application layer that's going to be building on top of that. So yeah, a little bit of myself there. I joined about 6 months ago, and really now sinking my teeth into formulating the whole DeFi Builders program, because we've got a lot of resources in Polkadot, but not really a comprehensive program that allows builders and makes it attractive for builders to come and access all of these resources in one place. So yeah, a little bit about the program, the structure. We're kind of going for a cohort-based approach with a very exclusive 5 teams for the first cohort. Really, I think the main aim here is we're looking to attract the innovators. We want to get like this new wave of innovators that will come and build new products with the uniqueness that Polkadot has to offer over a 12-week period, similar to an accelerator, but I think we also very happy to welcome teams that, have an MVP in place. They could be new, they could have a new idea, but also teams a little bit later on in the development cycle. What we're going to look and say is that we'll put a lot of weight towards uniqueness of product features, in terms of unique use cases that they can build within Polkadot. And we've also asked builders kind of what they valued most, right? What do you guys value most in a program? What kind of resources do you value most? And kind of structure the program around that, I would say, from technical support all the way to liquidity and funding.
Okay. So very comprehensive program. Seems like you're covering all bases, basically providing builders with everything they would need to get started, utilizing Hub for DeFi.
That's the aim. Yeah.
Okay. And I just want to say, Johnny, I like your background, by the way. I thought it was like one of the digital ones, like mine.
Oh,
here.
Yeah. It's a legitimate one.
Yeah. No, it looks great. Nico, let's come back to you, and maybe we could just double click a bit more on the program. So like, just walk us through, is it, Johnny mentioned it's sort of like an accelerator. So is it done through over a couple months, or is it just sort of like async whenever, just give us a bit more details.
Yeah, so echoing what Johnny mentioned, so it's going to be cohort based. So we're going to be picking 5 teams for the first cohort, and it's going to be a 12-week program. We're structuring. We have sort of a tight schedule. It's remote, so we're accepting applications from all over the world. But the idea is to have each week focused on a specific part of the development cycle. So that's where we'll be having sessions where Some of them will be collective with the five teams at the same time. We'll have someone from Parity or for Paper Moon come in and explain or solve technical problems for the teams. We'll have go-to-market sessions done by us and some of the other contributors of the ecosystem. We'll have some of the VCs in our ecosystem come and basically guide some of these teams on how funding rounds are conducted, how to best pitch their products, so on and so forth. So it's basically going to be a very intensive 12-week program, and it's going to end basically on a demo day. So the idea is for these teams to have a already working MVP product that they can showcase. And that last day, we'll have several of the VCs, both within and outside of Polkadot, coming in and looking at the teams, hearing them out, giving them feedback, and ideally, it'll end up with these teams being supported after the program as well.
Awesome. And I'll just ask the question on everyone's mind, and maybe you don't have an exact answer, but how much funding is available? So would this, for example, be enough funding for someone to move into this like full time, or would this kind of be like a side project to an already existing team? Tell us about the funding that's available.
So you're right. It's a hard question to answer, but the reason that it's hard to answer is because we're basically piecing together a lot of already existing support programs, right? So I'll give you one example on the funding piece. So on the funding piece, we're dealing with three main sources of funding. One is the treasury. We operate something called the DeFi infrastructure and tooling bounty. And we found, like the name implies, a lot of infrastructure and tooling, but we're actually up for a top-up, which is up for vote on OpenGov. We're trying to refocus this bounty into funding more applications. So that's going to be one funding source. The other funding source is the support from the Web3 Foundation through their strategic grant programs. So as you can see, both of these don't have a specific limit. It's going to really depend on the scope of work of the product. But I would say, like, yeah, it should be enough for them to give it a good crack and try to make this into a viable business. And then the third piece is the more generic one, which is VC funding, right? That, of course, is something we can guarantee. But the whole point of the program is to leave the teams after the 12 weeks in the best possible position to be able to access VC funding and turn their idea into an actual company.
Awesome. And okay, so DeFi is a pretty broad word. I mean, it encompasses a lot of things. I mean, what type of projects are you looking for exactly, Johnny? Like, as the BD person, what are some of the teams you might reach out and encourage to apply? Are you looking for example, like a team that would be focused on perps or a team focused on real world assets? I mean, what are some of the projects? And while you're doing that, I'm going to pull up your guys' website and just scroll through it so people can check it out.
Yeah, great. Yeah, I think you touched on a few of those, right? I think we're very interested to see teams looking to innovate with perpetuals. I think that's going to be a big part of the market. I think with our scalability and kind of performance enhancements we have in Polkadot, we should soon be there. So guys looking to get in early, I think there's an opportunity for that for sure. I guess you're kind of, the DEXs, the money markets, right? The kind of core of the DeFi structure that is always needed, right? When you're building out a DeFi marketplace. But then, if you're not paying attention to stable coins and really, what this market has been driven by, right? Those stable coins have just become huge. So anyone looking to innovate with stable coins, unique use cases around that in unique regions as well, from LATAM to Asia to Africa. We're really not trying to limit that. I think a good grasp of English is going to help you get through the program, as everything will be delivered in English, obviously, but really geographically and across all spectrums, from a little bit of product abstraction, real world assets as well. Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there. I think inviting teams to, even if there's something we haven't listed there, right, that could add value to your money markets, to your DEXs, to your real world assets that we haven't thought of, that teams are looking and innovating with already, from white paper to MVP to maybe a little bit later on in their development cycle. They're all welcome to apply.
Okay.
Just to echo something there. So this list that you're putting there on the screen, it's not an exhaustive list. Like, we don't want to limit the creativity of the builders, but we did put it there for guidance. And Johnny mentioned this, but it's an important emphasis of the program. We are putting a lot of weight on uniqueness and use cases. So money markets, for example, they're a key foundational piece of any DeFi ecosystem across the crypto space. But there's a lot of things you can do with money markets, right? So you can do anything from an Aave fork, which is what we're trying to avoid, right? We're not looking to support forks, but someone that does some sort of optimization on the liquidation, on making it more capital efficient, on making it more abstracted for non-crypto users. Like there's a lot of things that you can do with already existing DeFi primitives, and we're definitely going to put a lot of weight on the uniqueness that builders bring to that.
Awesome. So it sounds like who you're sort of targeting with this initial set of applications are maybe builders who have an idea or an existing product in a different ecosystem. And because of the EVM compatibility of Hub, they can kind of bring their idea over to Polkadot. Does that sound about right? Or are you also looking for builders within the ecosystem already, or both?
I would say probably a mix of that, right?
Okay.
As Nico said, I mean, if someone's just going to come along and say, hey, we're forking something like Aave or like Curve or like Uniswap, we're not really looking for that initially, right? I think there'd be a low weighting on that kind of an application, but definitely builders within the ecosystem, yes. Guys who are familiar with exploring and the network available, definitely. But I think those unique, new, native, innovative guys that are going to look and say, okay, this is a money market, but this is something we can do differently, right? This is how we can optimize, existing features within a money market or a DEX, or unique liquidation strategies, how we can aggregate different yields, in a new way, right? I think is a big focus on innovation in terms of the kind of teams we want to attract for this first cohort.
And the other thing I'll add there, sorry, Evan, is that so we're open to everyone, including Polkadot and non-Polkadot builders. Like one of the ideas of Hub is kind of growing the pie, right? Bringing net new builders into the ecosystem. But naturally, if we're putting such a weight into uniqueness and use cases, I think Polkadot builders would definitely have an edge because they'll understand Polkadot a lot better. They'll understand the technical advantages and differences of Polkadot Hub, and they'll probably have a more clear idea on how to leverage that from the EVM rather than someone coming from an outside ecosystem. But to be clear, we're welcoming builders from all walks of life.
Got it. This is a sort of just an open-ended question to either of you. I mean, why would a builder choose to come over to Polkadot? Like maybe just give 3 reasons. And I can start with a couple of reasons why I would think. I mean, for starters, as you mentioned, we have a lot of sources of funding. So we have the Web3 Foundation, well-capitalized, the Treasury, which is eager to invest in exciting projects, the various bounties you mentioned. But we also have a community that's hungry for apps, right? So Polkadot does have a very large and active community just waiting for new applications. So there's a couple of reasons I could see, but was there anything else you maybe want to add on to there? Maybe something unique about the architecture of the protocol, or?
Yeah, I can start, and Johnny, maybe you can complement my answer. So, I mean, if you look at the space more broadly, it's always a combination of factors. It can't only be a technical value prop, or it can only be a funding value prop. Like we can take Base as an example. If you look, Base as a technology platform is the same, if not identical, to the OP stack or to Arbitrum, right? But you start seeing a lot of differences in terms of the applications, in terms of TVL, in terms of the success metrics. And I think you can allocate that because of Coinbase as a very good platform for builders, providing a good distribution funnel, right? So I think we have to be conscious of that and provide like value props for both sides. So on the, let's say, builder support side, that's what we're trying to do with DeFi Builders Program, and that's how we're trying to differentiate. We really talk to a lot of builders, and as Johnny mentioned, we ask like, what are the things that you think are going to make or break your product? And we try to incorporate those into a cohesive program that offers all of them, right? So we think the DeFi Builders Program is going to be a good value prop for a builder to pick Polkadot Hub as opposed to maybe other ecosystems. But we have to pair that with the technology value prop. And as you mentioned, Polkadot Hub is not a plain vanilla EVM. It does have a lot of architectural differences that if the builders are creative enough, they're going to turn them into product value props. So one of them is the possibility to combining Solidity code with other type of code that compiles to the PVM. That could be Rust, C++, Ink, smart contracts. That also brings a lot of performance enhancement. The fact that you're not only bounded by the EVM and by Solidity. And then you also have the benefits of the underlying architecture behind Polkadot Hub, right? Which is scalability, decentralization, resilience, and the ability to basically scale dynamically with how your product scales.
Awesome. So yeah, core time elastic scaling, the 3 billion in network security. So a lot of advantages for building in Polkadot. One thing I like that I heard was that you went out and talked to builders first before developing this program and asked them, as you just mentioned, Nico, you asked them like, what is it that would make your project successful? One thing that I hear from a lot of builders, they're curious about how to get liquidity at launch. How is your program? What does that mean, first of all? And then how is your guys' program addressing that?
Johnny, you want to take that?
Yeah, I think, it's probably a little bit of a combination of, and just to reiterate earlier, 100%, there's the big reason why you should come is it's an established ecosystem, madly passionate community, and, resources are there to be used and to be deployed, right, in a much more aggressive manner. So I think those are quite key. And, leading into your question now around liquidity, I mean, it's, you can build a great product, in an ecosystem, and it's really difficult for users to use that product if there's no liquidity within it, and particularly in DeFi, right? Particularly when you want depth of markets, when you want to settle larger trades and attract a broad user base, right, from smaller users all the way up to power users. So liquidity is extremely important, and I think we're in a unique position in the ecosystem where, as part of this program, successful teams will be able to access liquidity at launch from ecosystem partners that we're working with, ecosystem funds, which I think puts us and this program and teams that want to apply in a very unique and promising position at start, right? You can build that product and not just worry, where am I going to get the liquidity or the users from now? Yeah. How am I going to, approach this go-to-market issue, which a lot of teams struggle with? They're very good at building the tech. They're very good at, creating unique use cases. And we can throw that liquidity in there, as well as, unique incentive programs, or at least well-targeted incentive programs to drive usage and to drive deeper TVL, then, I think we're going to have a lot of success early on for teams that come through the program.
Amazing. Yeah, that's just another advantage that building Polkadot is that you have this liquidity at your hands, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
So if I'm a builder and let's say I just have an idea, or perhaps I'm further along, I'm a part of a team and we have like an MVP, or, like a working, what's the word I'm looking for? Prototype. How flexible is the program to both of these types of groups? Like, do you have to be like in the early idea phase, or do you have to be further along, or is it kind of just open to anyone in any stage of their process?
Yeah, I think I'll jump in there. So I think we touched on it. We touched on it earlier, Evan, is that, it can be quite early. Guys with a unique idea, possibly no code, in place yet. Could be guys that have got an MVP. It could be guys that, are a little bit further along the line with some users, and possibly having deployed somewhere else already. We would entertain that too, if the idea is going to add value to what we're trying to achieve as a whole in terms of the DeFi ecosystem on Polkadot, or on Hub for that matter. So yeah, I think, a good balance between the three, but, to echo what Nico mentioned there will be a lot of weight when we're selecting teams placed on kind of the uniqueness and how they are looking to utilize the I guess the technical advantages that you will find within Polkadot as well, within their their product suite.
And the other thing I'll add there is that we'll be making the details of the actual program available as we get closer to launch. But it's basically a combination of collective sessions where all the 5 teams are going to be together, and either Velocity, some of our liquidity partners, Distractive, Papermoon will be kind of having office hours and sessions with them. But I would say the majority is going to be basically one-on-ones with either us or some of our supporting partners. And that's the part that is going to give us flexibility, right? So for maybe a more established builder, go-to-market might not be as relevant, even though they can probably extract some value out of it. But once we're in our one-on-one, we'll probably actually hands-on tailor support for whatever stage they're at. So we're building it with a lot of flexibility in mind to be able to cater for the biggest range of type of builders as possible. And I do think that as we advance the program, the second and third cohort, like we'll continue iterating, right? We see like what are the best builders out of the ones that we're kind of graduating, and try to refocus the program on that specific segment of builders.
And when is this? Remind me, when is this first cohort slated to finish up and be complete?
Yeah.
So starting mid-October is when we're targeting. Of course, a lot of it is going to be dependent on the review process of the applications that we received. So that started today. Applications are open since today, but the target is mid-October, and wherever that leaves us. To begin.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then 12 weeks after that is when it ends.
It'd be cool to get some of these teams to Sub-Zero in Buenos Aires, November 14th through 16th, and meet the community and maybe showcase what they're working on.
I mean, ideally, a lot of these teams can make it, and we'll make sure to support them to be able to make it. By that time, we'll be like at the beginning, early stages of the program, but it'll be good for them to get like some FaceTime with the community and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. I do want to talk about the application a bit because some people in the chat or in the chat stream are asking about it. So I'll drop a link here in a second. But we touched on RWAs, the momentum behind stablecoins. Are there any other trends you see emerging in DeFi at the moment, or anything you think that's kind of nascent at the moment, but that might be fully grown in maybe a year from now? Anything at all? And while you're doing that, I'm gonna drop the link to the app.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, when you look at the DeFi space more broadly, I would say there's a lot of trends that are emerging. One is the combination of DeFi and AI. I think it all started with these kind of bots that issue a token, and it was kind of more of a AI and meme coin mania. But it's evolved into something much more serious, and it's basically teams exploring on how on-chain capital deployment can be further optimized and automized. So I think there's a lot of interesting explorations in that specific subsegment of DeFi that we'd like to see, like some applications in that regard. RWAs, like you do have to mention them. Sounds like not a new trend. It's actually relatively old with Centrifuge, one of our builders who kickstarted that trend. But in the last couple quarters, it's when it's actually started to caught fire, and you see a lot of these issuance numbers of RWAs up and to the right. And now it's more about, okay, we have infrastructure to each of these assets on chain. Like, what use cases can we create? Like, what advantages can we have of having these instruments on chain? So definitely applications that leverage those primitives would also be super interesting for us.
Okay, the application process. So this will be interesting to our audience and anyone that wants to potentially become part of this program. I'm going to pull up your website again here. Okay, so here we have a bit of a schedule. So first couple of weeks is the onboarding, weeks 3 through 8, the mentorship and product building. Part 3 is week 9 through 11. It's the go-to-market prep. And then, as you mentioned, there's a virtual demo day after the 12th week. So that's part 4. Anything I missed or anything you want to mention about those before we go to the application?
No, I think it's pretty clear there. We just try to keep it, high level on the website for now. Obviously, there's a lot more detail involved in the session plans, as Nico mentioned earlier, regarding kind of the ecosystem partners we're working with, from Papermoon Parity to, Wave Digital, Distractive, Hypernative. Yeah, exactly. Looking at kind of all of their unique offerings and value that they can add to each of the teams, which I think it can't be understated, right? The level of access that we're going to be giving, this cohort and these teams as an early builder or later stage builder for that matter, to institutional funds who manage multi-million-dollar strategies and two very established development teams like Parity, like Papermoon, with the knowledge base that they have. So I just wanted to reiterate that. And
some of the talent that's coming out of Polkadot Blockchain Academy, if a team needs to make a hire, you have a talent 100%. Pool at your hands.
Yeah, you've got direct access, right, to all of these resources here, at the touch of a button.
To hire and to build, right, which is kind of the important part of the PBA funnel, like having somewhere that they can go and actually realize or leverage what they learned to actually build the product. That's also a very good funnel for PBA graduates.
What is the format of the program? And what I mean by that is it like a Zoom call that everyone's on and it's like a class, or is it more one-on-one async? Tell us just a bit about the format, like what hours, what hours would people have to be available to participate, or how many hours per week would they expect to dedicate to this? Just tell us a bit about that.
Yeah. So, in terms of hours per week, we'll add a little bit more detail on that. Okay. With regards to the sessions, it's going to be a combination of one-to-one sessions directly with each team. Some of the sessions will be a little bit catered more towards having group sessions, where kind of like a webinar style, where the partner will be able to obviously present their sessions to all 5 teams at once. But then we'll also have a lot more dedicated stuff when we're looking at teams' personal roadmaps, when we're looking at their tokenomics, working out kind of what their milestones should be, right, when we need to check in on deliverables. So a lot of that will be tailor-made and personalized in one-to-one sessions. So a combination of the two, which we'll make clear over the coming weeks.
Awesome. Oh, yeah.
The last piece I'll add there is that, so there's the component of where either we one-on-one will be talking to the team, or a presentation from some of our partners to the 5 teams. So that will take up time, but I won't say it's going to be the bulk of their time. The bulk of the time actually has to go to building, right? And this ties into, like, at the beginning of the program, we'll structure like some very clear milestones for the teams to meet. And we'll be pretty rigid with those, because those milestones are obviously going to unlock funds for each of the team. So basically, a lot of the time the teams should be spending is in actually building and developing the product to meet those milestones.
Okay. So let's talk about the next steps for teams or builders that want to get involved, the application. Tell us, I'm going to click on apply now and share my screen. Like, what does the application look like? What are some of the questions you're asking? Is there like I'm assuming there's some sort of interview process. Just tell us a bit about, you said you're looking for uniqueness. Just maybe go a little bit into more detail on the application process. How soon can people expect to hear back? Will they be contacted if they're not selected? Just these sort of things.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so we're obviously going to go on as best as possible to get back to teams, within a day or two of obviously receiving, the application. So we'll have our hands full, right? I mean, if 1,000 applications come in, that's a good problem to have, and we would ask teams to be, just cognizant of the fact that we would be processing a lot of applications. It is going to be running for, we've left the application process open for kind of the next 30 days, 3 September to 3 October, and then giving ourselves, about 2 weeks until the start of the actual program. But yeah, so we'll do our best to obviously get back to teams as soon as we can once we've obviously received the applications, whether we want to set up an interview or not. That's only the right thing to do.
And that's the first filter. So the application itself, the one that you're showing on the screen, that's going to be the first filter. I would say it's pretty straightforward questions. A lot of them are open-ended, and that's where kind of the uniqueness is going to be able to be showcased, where they're going to have to go into the detail of like what their idea is, what they want to build it, why they want to build it. Because in some of these questions, they can say like, what are we building? We're building a DEX. Or they can answer, we're building a form for private swaps that is going to leverage PV, et cetera, so that's going to be the first filter. And then depending on the quality of applications, we'll move on to an interview process. And after the interview process, then we'll select the 5 builders, as Johnny mentioned.
Awesome. So it's all pretty straightforward. I mean, is there anything else that you think people should know before we kind of wrap it up? Anything that we maybe haven't touched on?
Johnny, something on your end?
Yeah, I think just some housekeeping, right? The form is available now. You can apply now, right? We're looking at applications now. The announcements are going out. There'll be blogs, coming out with further information over now and next week. So if you want any more info, you can go to our website, right? You got the link there. Hit the application through. We've taken applications up until the 3rd of October for the first cohort. It will be a 12-week program. There is a requirement, obviously, to be able to take, at least for key members of the team, to take the sessions in English. And we're excited to start receiving some applications. So, everything is live and ready.
Yeah, the last piece I'll mention, I think more than the program, is kind of the state of the ecosystem. Like one of the reasons and one of the genesis idea of Velocity, actually our mission at Velocity, is to turn Polkadot into the best Web3 platform to build DeFi applications. And the way that we see that as an opportunity for builders is that you get a combination of 2 things. One, you get an ecosystem that's actually mature, right? Like we have a $5 billion, $6 billion market cap token. We have a very mature infrastructure, resilient, scalable, mature, et cetera, performant, et cetera. But at the same time, like we don't have the most renowned DeFi ecosystem, and that's being purely honest, right? We have Hydration, which have done an amazing job and have swam against the current and build the product and the success that they've built. But even with them doing what they're doing, like Polkadot as a whole is not the first place that people think when they think of DeFi, right? And that's what we want to change. So we want to combine this like mature infrastructure, mature ecosystem, like big market cap token that we have, and combining with a lot of resources, which is what we're trying to provide in the program, to actually fill that gap and make Polkadot into something that when people think of DeFi, they think of Polkadot as a really good platform to build. So just to encourage builders to not overlook Polkadot, look at our program, chat to us, send us a message. We're also happy to chat and give guidance throughout the application process. But just wanted to highlight kind of the extent of the opportunity.
Awesome. And like I said in the beginning, you guys are doing such great work behind the scenes. Velocity Labs deserves a ton of credit. And for those that might have joined a bit later or later on to the stream, we've been talking about the Polkadot DeFi Builders Program. It's a 12-week program that provides builders with mentorship, liquidity, funding, access to talent pool if you need to do some hiring, basically everything you need to jumpstart an app on Polkadot Hub, which is launching in the next few months here. And as Nico just said, Polkadot really aims to be the best place to build or to use DeFi. So this program is totally free, and to apply, you go to this link here. I encourage everyone to check it out. It's going to be pretty competitive, just 5 teams. So it's good to get your application in early, and you can do that by going to velocitylabs.org/DeFi builders. And Nico and Johnny, where can we find you guys on Twitter in case we want to? Well, first, plug Velocity Labs Twitter because you guys will have a ton of updates coming from there.
Velocity Labs is at @v_labs. That's our Twitter account. And I see someone from our team is posting our website and the link to the application here in the chat as well, so you can find it there. Johnny, what about your?
Yeah, at Johnny_DeFi. Nice and easy.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah,
that's the type of mentor you want.
That would be, yeah, exactly.
All right.
That'll be my Twitter handle, and then at JohnnyDeFi on Telegram.
Awesome.
With Johnny's handle, I forget mine, to be honest. Oh, I found it. The thing is that it's very Colombian to pronounce. In English, it's a little bit hard, but it's at Nicolaris28.
Nicolade. So maybe someone from your team can drop it in the chat as well then.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I got them both here. Let me put them up on the screen just to send you guys off in the right way here. Okay, so there's Johnny. And then we have Nicolades. Yep. 28. I'm going to put them up here.
Good pronunciation.
All right. Evan. Yes, I'm from Los Angeles. Grew up with Spanish as my third.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Oh, wait, I didn't show it on the screen. Here we go. All right. So you know where to find these guys. You know where to get information about the program. And more importantly, where to apply. Do that today. Don't wait around. It's pretty competitive. So 5 spots only. So go over to Velocity Labs website and apply today. And guys, I'd love to do this again. Maybe once the program's kicked off and you've seen some results, you can give us a little status update and we can talk about the second cohort.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely. It would be good to have the selected teams to be presented as well. Maybe halfway through the program or something. We can plan something around that.
Yeah, or we could stream the virtual demo day to the Polkadot account or something like that.
As well. Cool. Yeah.
All right, I hope to see you guys at Sub-Zero as well in Buenos Aires.
Yes,
November 14th to 16th. So thanks so much for joining. All right, everyone.
Thanks for the invitation. Bye, everyone.